It's all, Now, welcome to the Thursday, December 4th, 2025 Metropolitan Policy Committee meeting. My name is Randy Groves. I'm a Eugene City Councilor and Chair of the committee. Paul, we've already started the recording, so I think we're good to go there. And Brenda or Paul, do you have any announcements or records you want to share for the meeting as it gets going? Brenda.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a reminder that when people are speaking, please speak into the microphone so that people who are attending remotely can hear. It's a little difficult for them to hear when you're not speaking into the microphone. So thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. And it's important to remember that you're not going to hear any feedback of speakers in the room. The microphone is only for the people that are not here attending remotely. And if your red light is on up here and down at the button, that means you're hot. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. And let's see, I want to remind people that are signing up to speak that there's two lists up, one for the general list and one for the public hearing. Paul, do you want to give any more explanation on that?
Yes, as the chair said, there is a white piece of paper in the back of the room for public comment at the start of the meeting, and there's a yellow sheet for the public hearing later in the meeting, specifically on funding priorities.
Thank you, Paul. Very good. Are there any adjustments to the agenda or announcements from MPC members? I'm not seeing anybody online or in person here that has additions. So I guess we're ready now for comments from the audience, and this is for the general comments at the meeting, and we have one person signed up, Carl Darwin.
Hello. I'm just curious as to how much of this state and federal funding that you guys are going over is skimmed by the municipalities that are handling the money. How much is the city and county taking off of $1 million to administer it? I've kind of looked online and can't really find a number. I've heard anywhere from 10 to 30%. And I think a lot of us would just appreciate knowing how much of this is kind of falling off the top. Thank you.
Paul, do you have any information on what the administrative overhead is? I'm sure it's different by jurisdiction, but.
It is, and there's really two parts to that answer. The operating costs for the core MPO functions at LCOG are paid with a separate set of money, completely different from this money that's available for projects. The operating fund is not available for projects. As part of this funding round, and the same, we've done it for many years, there is a recommendation, and you've heard this in previous meetings, for certain amounts off the top for other priorities that aren't projects, ongoing things like supporting the Safe Routes to Schools program, supporting the transportation options work in the region. Those things are off the top. They're not for administrative costs, but they're for ongoing programs as opposed to specific projects that you're here to discuss today.
How much work would it be to produce an explanation of that and put it on the website?
It'd be very easy to summarize that. I believe some of it may already be there, but certainly we can do that.
Okay. Do you need a motion for that, or is that
the direction from you is fine today?
Great. Well, unless anyone on the MPC objects, I think it's a good idea. We should be always trying to promote as much transparency as we can. So thank you very much for handling that. Okay, our item 5 is approval of the November 6, 2025 MPC meeting minutes. Are there any changes? I'm not seeing any hands raised. With that, is there a motion to approve?
Yes, Chair. I move to approve the November 6, 2025 MPC meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion's been moved by Councilor Blackwell and approved by Commissioner Lovall. All in favor, just raise your hand. Okay, it appears to be unanimous. That passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 6A, adoption of Regional Transportation Plan, RTP, Air Quality Conformity Determination, AQCD, and Congestion Management Process, CMP. Paul, do you care to
I'm happy to do a
speak
quick,
to this?
I'm happy to do a quick introduction. We have Kelly Clark with us online, and she will be presenting this for perhaps the final time for a couple of years, summarizing all the work you've been doing for the past couple of years on this update. We are asking for adoption today. I will note that there are 3 resolutions adopting 3 individual documents. After the presentation and any discussion, we're asking you to approve those either in one motion or individually.
Thank you, Paul. Kelly, do you want to take it away on the presentation?
I do. Thank you, Chair. Kelly Clark here with the Lane Council Government Central Lane MPO, and I just have a few slides to share here. So let me start my screen. Okay, are you able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, so as Paul mentioned, the purpose of this agenda item is to request that MPC adopt the Central and MPO's 2049 Regional Transportation Plan, Congestion Management Process, and Air Quality Conformity Determination. We've been to you with these documents and through the adoption process or the update process of these 3 plans over the last 2 years on a monthly basis, and this is the culmination of all of that work. The MPC packet contains the complete draft of the RTP and its 14 appendices, including the congestion management process and air quality conformity determination. The packet that the documents as they are in your packet are the same that we've had in the last 2. And so nothing is new at this point. We've brought everything to you for your feedback and direction throughout. So the RTP, as a reminder, has 7 chapters. Chapter 1 is the introduction. 2 is our regional context. What is the current environment, current conditions of our region. 3 has the regional vision. Where do we want to be in 25 years, 2049? Chapter 4 has the RTP list of investments. Chapter 5 has their system performance. How are we doing? Chapter 6 is the financial plan, and Chapter 7 is the conclusion. All of the technical and background documentation is in the appendices that are shown on this slide. The 2 key appendices to draw your attention to are Appendix A, the congestion management process, and Appendix L, the air quality conformity determination. And as Paul mentioned, those 2 have separate resolutions, one for each of those that we'll ask you to sign. So the key milestones throughout this adoption process have been that we asked TPC, our Transportation Planning Committee, to open the public comment at their October 16th meeting, which they did. So the public comment period opened October 31st, and that was a 30-day public comment period that started that day. MPC met on November 6th and held a public hearing, and no public testimony was given at that public hearing. TPC at their November 20th meeting recommended approval of the Regional Transportation Plan, Congestion Management Process, and Air Quality Conformity Determination. November 30th, we saw the closure of our public comment period, and we did not receive any public comment through that process. So we're here today to ask MPC to adopt these 3 documents, these 3 plans. Assuming we have adoption today, we'll finalize all of these documents and send them to our federal reviewers, and we need to do that by January 20th. So at this point, I'd like to request that MPC make a motion to approve resolutions 2025-02, 2025-03, and 2025-04 to adopt the Central and MPO's 2049 Regional Transportation Plan, Air Quality Conformity Determination, and Congestion Management Process. And that's all the presentation I have for you today. Happy to answer any questions or again, request that you make a motion to approve.
Thank you,
Thank
Kelly.
you.
Appreciate it. Are there questions or comments from the MPC? Pete?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just want to acknowledge the amount of work that's been done here by staff and others to put this together, and congratulations on getting this done.
Thank you very much. Are there questions or comments from our virtual MPC members? I'm not seeing any hands. No more from,
Chair.
I think,
No, I mean, I was gonna make a comment, if I could.
oh,
Yeah, thank you, thank you, Chair. Kelly, you did a great job. Certainly appreciate, as being last year's chair, going through the process with you. If there's any takeaway from this, repetition is the key to learning, and you have schooled us well, so I appreciate you very much.
Good to hear.
Look at that.
Counselor.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolutions 2025-02, 2025-03, and 2025-04.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second has been received. All in favor, raise your hand. I'm seeing Commissioner Farr, are you opposing it or?
I'm gonna have to abstain.
Okay, so we have one abstention. Do you have that, Brenda? Okay, great. Thank you. And I too want to add my appreciation to Kelly and the staff at LCOG for their work on this. I don't know what we're going to do without having this on our agenda in the future, but we'll try to survive. Great. Okay, we're moving on to 6B on our agenda, FY 28 through 30 funding proposals. Dan Callister is the presenter. Dan, please take it away.
Thank you. Yes. My name is Daniel Collister. I'm a planner at the Lane Council of Governments. Could you bring up that? It's called funding proposals. So this is regarding the funding proposals for the use of the MPO's federal discretionary funding for federal fiscal years 2028 through 2030.
Dan, could you speak up just a little bit, please?
Yeah, thank you. We are requesting a public hearing regarding these proposals, but I'd first like to just introduce the proposals themselves, go over them a little bit to provide some familiarity. So the MPO is currently in the process of developing our Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, for the federal fiscal years 2027 through 2030. And part of that process includes developing a federal revenue forecast for those years. We put together, here we go, you can see on the screen, I think. Is that being shared?
It will be as soon as I get this full screen.
You'll soon see a table that's showing the revenue forecast for those years for the MPO's discretionary federal funding. It's a pretty conservative forecast, but that tells us what to plan for. That funding, the MPO can put towards projects, programs, capital purchases at the MPO's discretion. So the process for doing that, for identifying the uses of those funds, is our competitive call for projects. And in September and October, we solicited applications for the use of those funds. We received 19 funding proposals, and I'll be presenting those to you today. I would also like to mention that our subcommittee has been reviewing these proposals. They've seen them. They are discussing the merits of each of those proposals, and will be based on input from the public and from MPC and the individual merits of the projects and the program funding program eligibility. They will be developing or at least informing a recommendation from the Transportation Planning Committee to MPC for approval of a funding package in February. So with that being said, why don't we advance to the first proposal? So I'm going to go through these in alphabetical order by agency, by applicant. This is the first one from the city of Eugene. It is Bailey Hill and Bertelson Roundabout. This project is one that's already has the support of MPC through an earlier funding request. The city of Eugene is seeking funding needed to complete the project. It is the construction of a roundabout at the intersection of Bailey Hill Road and Bertelson Road at the southwest edge of town. The project is addressing safety issues. There have been a number of crashes at or near that intersection that have resulted in serious injuries. The roundabout would slow vehicles down as they're coming into the city. The project includes the addition of bicycle and pedestrian amenities as well. Next. This is also a City of Eugene request. This 18th Avenue and Oak Street intersection improvements. There are a couple components to this project. First is the replacement of span wire traffic signals at that intersection with mast arm signals. The current hardware is at the end of its useful life, and one support pole is heaving and in danger of failing. The cabinet, controller, and vehicle detection will be updated to a more modern standard, and the full intersection will be brought into ADA compliance. Currently, none of the four corners at the intersection are ADA compliant. The second component of this project is an evaluation of Oak Street as it continues towards 17th Avenue, 1 block north. 18th Avenue is where the one-way northbound section of Oak Street begins. This will assess a possible conversion of that block along the west side of the Safeway into a two-way street. Next is Get There Eugene, New Movers and Transportation Options. If funded, this would continue MPC's support of City of Eugene's Transportation Options Program. Some of the work that the Get There Eugene program does includes providing information to new residents about what options for transportation are available. There are also educational and encouragement events that help promote the use of city's investments in safe bicycle and pedestrian facilities and more. This would fund the program for 2028, 2029, and 2030. Next is City of Eugene High Street signal upgrades. In a previous funding cycle, MPC approved funding for construction of a protected bikeway along High Street. There wasn't enough funding to improve all of the traffic signals along that corridor for full functionality for all modes. This project will modernize the signal system along High Street between 18th Avenue and 6th Avenue, consistent with what exists on the 13th Avenue bikeway. The project will improve travel efficiency and pedestrian safety. Next, also from City of Eugene, the North Terry Street extension. North Terry Street in the Bethel area of Northwest Eugene currently dead ends a half-mile short of Clear Lake Road to the north. The city recently expanded the urban growth boundary to provide space for more jobs, parks, and schools in the adjacent area. Extension of North Terry Street will facilitate and serve that growth with utilities, lighting, bike lanes, and sidewalks. It will link Barger Drive to Clear Lake Road, where a roundabout is planned. Next is City of Eugene Oakway Road protected bike lanes. In 2020, MPC approved federal funding for bicycle and pedestrian improvements at the intersection of Coburg Road and Oakway Road, and continuing north along Oakway Road to Cal Young Road. This request closes the gap between the current funding and the higher than anticipated construction costs, and would allow for, among other things, planned modifications to the intersection of Oakway Road, Coburg Road, and the I-105 off-ramp. A critical element at this intersection is making a connection with the Coburg Road shared use path and bike lanes. Next, City of Eugene, River Road and Highway 99 multimodal safety project. So over 20% of Eugene's high crash intersections are along River Road or Highway 99. The city is also anticipating growth here with higher density housing. A refinement study by City of Eugene and LTD identified some safety issues and recommendations for those two corridors. This project will implement recommendations that will improve safety for walking, biking, transit, and motor vehicles. Some improvements may include new or enhanced pedestrian crossings, a separated bikeway, bus priority lanes, and intersection treatments. Next is Grove Street paving and sidewalks. This work supports a jurisdictional transfer from Lane County to City of Eugene, and it is a joint Lane County and City of Eugene request. The project will repave Grove Street about a third of a mile in length from Maxwell Road north to Silver Lane and build sidewalks with accessible curb ramps. This stretch of road abuts the west side of North Eugene High School, and there are currently no pedestrian facilities. The sidewalk will provide connections for over 2,000 students attending neighborhood schools. Next is Lane County request roundabout at Clear Lake Road and Green Hill Road. Serious crashes are a concern at this intersection. The proposed roundabout would improve safety by lowering speeds and reducing turning movement conflicts. Similar to the Bailey Hill Road roundabout mentioned earlier, a roundabout here would improve awareness and reduce speeds as travelers transition from rural to urban setting. Next is Lane County Green Hill Road Multimodal Safety Study. Lane County's 2025 Transportation Safety Action Plan identifies Green Hill Road between Barger Drive and Meadowview Road as a high priority due to its high fatal and serious injury crash risk. This project will fund a study to explore alternatives for improving safety along that corridor for all users. Next is Lane County Maxwell Road ADA improvements. This supports another jurisdictional transfer from Lane County to City of Eugene. The project is a mill and fill overlay pavement preservation treatment of a section of Maxwell Road from River Road west about a mile to Maxwell Connector, which is just a little before the bridge over Northwest Expressway. And it includes bringing the pedestrian facilities up to compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Those facilities serve as an important pedestrian connection between the River Road and Bethel neighborhoods. The project complements an earlier MPC-supported project currently in construction, which provides pedestrian facilities and ADA access ramps along Prairie Road and Maxwell Road. This project continues on Maxwell Road where the earlier project ends. Next is Lane County Prairie Road ADA improvements.
Can I pause just a moment here? Sure. We have a member trying to get into the meeting, so excuse me for this interruption.
I was just going to interrupt and ask for help.
It's hard to monitor everything on one screen here. So that's Mayor Van Gordon should be joining the meeting now. I believe these other people are citizens wishing to speak later. Pushing that blue button. Okay, are we on the right project, Dan?
We go back one, please. Yes. So Lane County Prairie Road ADA improvements. So this project will construct ADA compliant curb ramps along the sidewalk for about a 1.3 mile stretch on the west side of Prairie Road from Beltline north to East Enid Road. It also includes a crosswalk and rapid flashing beacon to be installed at the intersection with Irvington Drive, as well as some operational upgrades. Also from Lane County, 30th Avenue preservation. This proposal would address an urgent pavement condition problem along a 2-mile stretch of 30th Avenue between Spring Boulevard and McVeigh Highway at the I-5 on-ramp. This is a phase of the larger MPC-supported 30th Avenue Active Transportation Corridor project, which is going to be constructed in phases and will eventually include construction of a protected pathway and a roundabout at the Eldon Schaefer intersection. This phase we're talking about now, in addition to addressing the pavement, will include reconfiguration of striping at high crash intersections and signal modifications to ensure accessibility standards. Next is multimodal counters. Lane Council of Governments manages a region-wide program for collecting bicycle and pedestrian count data. Last summer, mobile counters were used to collect data at 42 locations. Those data are calibrated using data collected by permanent counters installed at 14 locations, collecting data 24/7, 365. One important use of these count data are as inputs in calibrating the regional travel model. MPC originally supported this effort back in 2015 with the initial purchases and installations taking place over the next year or two. The hardware has an end of life after 10 years. This funding would replace and upgrade hardware at the end of its useful life. Next. Lane Transit District, fare system unification. This request is for funding to help support modernizing LTD's fare system. The new system will make sure riders receive the most affordable fare. It will make payments more intuitive and flexible, will allow for linking or unifying accounts across LTD, MX, bike share, and other partners, and there are other operational efficiencies as well. Next is LTD signal priority enhancements. LTD is seeking funding to implement next generation transit signal prioritization technology along transit routes. The technology gives LTD buses priority at traffic signals and improves the speed and reliability of bus service. Initial implementation will be along MX corridors, but could expand in the long term. This project will improve transit service performance and make transit a more competitive option for travel. Next, also from LTD, Transit Shared Mobility Integration and Modernization. This is for funding to design, procure, and launch a next-generation electric assist bike share system that supports integrated fare payment and trip planning with LTD services. It is a collaborative effort of LTDs in partnership with City of Eugene, City of Springfield, eWeb, Cascadia Mobility, and Lane Council of Governments. Next is City of Springfield, South 48th Street Extension. Springfield is requesting funds to construct an extension of South 48th Street from Daisy Street 1/4 mile north, connecting it to Main Street. The project includes construction of a 12-foot multi-use path running adjacent to the extension and connecting to the off-street path network at both ends. The project will reduce trip lengths in an area with a lot of recent and anticipated development. Springfield Fire Station number 14 on Main Street is directly adjacent to the project, and their response times will be decreased. Next, last but not least, from the University of Oregon, heavy-duty electric bus charging station at 13th and Agate. There is a need for electric bus charging infrastructure sited near the corner of 13th Avenue and Agate Street on University of Oregon campus that would allow for electrification of intercity bus service provided by Point Cascades and FlixBus that connect Eugene to Portland and beyond. Those providers have electric buses ready to use, but have to send diesel buses because they're not able to recharge their electric buses here. MTR Western, who operates Point Cascades, is donating a 150 kilowatt charger. The university has come up with funding and has additional funding commitments from eWeb and a Oregon DEQ grant and the Associated Students of the University of Oregon. This request would complete the funding for the project. Those are the proposals, but before I open it up for questions, could you go to the next slide? I do also want to mention that we're expecting as part of the Transportation Planning Committee's funding recommendation to MPC, and indeed part of the public process, the public hearing today, is this draft budget here for what we refer to as off-the-top amounts for those same years. So essentially what that is, we've taken the $24 million of federal revenue that we anticipate, and we're removing off the top funding to ensure that we have enough funding for our work program at the MPO, for our priority regional programs like Safe Routes to School, Transportation Options. There are a couple, first of all, those two programs, Transportation Options and Safe Routes to School, are expanding. So the budgets for those are increasing. I've also noted here on the right, there are 3 items being added to this. It's a little deceptive. Those are programs that have in previous years and are currently supported by the MPO and funded through the MPO. We're just adding them to this off the top list. Part of that is they've been within our work program, or they've been receiving funding through the competitive process. We're just wanting to secure funding and ensure that those important programs are moving forward. This is funding that's taken off the top and separate from our competitive selection process. So again, part of the funding recommendation are the approval of these off the top amounts. And with that, I'll go ahead and open it for questions. I will remind MPC that we are requesting a public hearing for this.
Okay, are there questions or comments from the MPC on the presentation? Not seeing any. So we are ready, I believe, to open the public hearing.
Chair, we are. Brenda is bringing you the list of people that have signed up. And there are I believe some people online that will want to testify also. Okay.
Okay, I open the public hearing for this agenda item, the FY 28 to 30 funding proposals. I have the sign up list for the people who are here in person. The first name up is Alan Hancock. Yeah, please come up front and have a seat.
Hello, my name is Alan Hancock. I live in Eugene. I have served on the City of Eugene's Active Transportation Committee for over 10 years. I've also served on the Street Repair Review Panel for the City of Eugene for 6 or 7 years. So I'm very familiar with active transportation, safety, and the cost of maintaining our road system. As you probably know, the number of deaths and serious injuries in our region has increased over the last few years, and that's a national trend. I believe that the primary purpose of government is to protect the life and liberty of the people who they're serving, and nothing better to do than to try to protect the safety of people on streets. And therefore, I believe that the primary criteria that you should be using is whether these projects will improve the safety of users. Most of the projects serve that purpose, and I commend the staff that have brought them forth, but there are a couple that maybe are not needed, and those two include the extension of Terry Street and the extension of 48th Street in Springfield. Those add to the burden at a time when there's tightening budgets, and I believe that we should be taking care of the streets that we have currently. I know how expensive it is, rather than building new streets. So with that, I encourage you to approve all that you can to support active transportation, and that includes walking, bicycling, and the use of transit. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Next speaker we have is Charlie, and I'm having a hard time listening. Loeb?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, and thank you. My name is Charlie Loeb. I am a resident of the city of Eugene. Like Alan, I am on the City of Eugene's Active Transportation Committee, which is a group of folks who pedestrians, bicyclists, people who use active transportation in the city that serve as kind of a focus group for the city's planning staff to figure out when they're working on projects how to best design them and what the priority should be. So I, like Alan, want to really applaud the focus of this group of projects on two things. One on safety, and as Alan mentioned, safety is kind of a crisis in the transportation system at this point. And secondly, as someone who moves around this entire region with a variety of modes of transportation, by car, by bike, by transit, and by foot, I can tell you that most of our investment in infrastructure over many, many decades has gone to making it easier for people in cars to get around, but not so much the others. I really, in addition to the safety projects, I really think it's important to be investing more money in our pedestrian infrastructure and our cycling infrastructure and in our transit system so that people don't have to drive. It's safer, it's better for people's health, it's actually good for people in cars because people that aren't driving leave more room on the roads for those who do still need to drive. It's better for budgets because people who cycle or walk or take transit don't put as much pressure on the roads in terms of wear and tear. In all ways, it's great to move people to other modes of transportation, and quite a few of these projects do that. I'll highlight three of them that I think I just have personal familiarity with that I think are very important. Most importantly, the request for the Oakway Road protected bikeway and additional support there. As a member of the Active Transportation Committee, we spent quite a bit of time with city staff talking about the protected bikeway there on Oakway Road. Realized that the connection there across that Coburg intersection is a nightmare. It's bad. In terms of safety, It's terrible for cyclists or pedestrians trying to move through that intersection. And the perception of safety is also terrible. Like, it'll be hard to convince people that this is a place that you want to bike through without some serious improvements there. This is absolutely essential to get people to cycle. It needs to be safe, it needs to be convenient, and it needs to be an appealing place to bike. This addition to that project is really essential. Secondly, I wanted to mention the High Street intersections. The High Street Protected Bikeway was an instant success. Lots of people use it, and almost as many are frustrated with the signalization along that. It is a deterrent to folks making full use of that. The signals in that corridor are outmoded, need replacing, and I strongly encourage you to consider that project. And finally, I want to put in a great word for the City of Eugene's New Movers program. The best time to convince someone to take up a new mode of transportation is when they've just moved to a new community and are establishing new habits anyway. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at the city's new mover packet, I really encourage you to get a hold of one and take a look at it. It is an impressive piece of work. I think is really effective in persuading people to try getting around in some other way than what they might have done from in the place that they came from. The city of Eugene offers a lot of great opportunities for people to move around by biking, by walking, by transit, but they got to know that those opportunities exist, and catching the new movers is really important. It's not a very expensive program, and I really hope you're able to support it for the years covered in this new funding allocation. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Noah Burnell.
Yes.
Great.
Hi, I'm Noah Burnell. I live in downtown Eugene. I am the co-chair of the Downtown Neighborhood Association, Eugene. I want to echo what Alan said earlier about we do not need to be building new roads when we cannot afford to maintain the roads that we currently have. And that is a form of saddling the cities, the counties with maintenance costs a few decades down the road. So the two road extensions, I believe, are a bad idea. I do want to advocate for dedicating funding to two projects in particular. The priority signaling for LTD is a real force multiplier for improving transportation for everyone. The obvious effect is that it makes the buses go faster. That, however, also means that LTD can run either more buses or spend less money on running the same amount of buses, because it means you can complete your route faster. It also makes the buses more competitive with driving or cycling, which is a way of getting more people onto the bus and fewer people driving cars, which is what causes congestion and road wear. It's just all over a great bargain. I also want to advocate for the River Road and Highway 99 multimodal improvements. Again, there are multiple factors that make this a really good choice. One is simply, as mentioned in the proposal, that is one of the most dangerous and dangerous areas. People are dying. So reducing that would be really desirable. It is also a way of improving the economy, honestly. There are many businesses on River Road and Highway 99 to a smaller extent, which I would like to frequent. And I've often, when thinking about going to a restaurant or visiting a friend or attending a community meeting in that neighborhood, I juggle, is it worth it? That's for me as someone who rides a bike and takes the bus. My wife, however, who drives, does the same thing. Do I want to be on that road? Is it worth it to go there? And often the answer is no. If we can make those roads more safe and feel more safe and more attractive, there are going to be more people driving the economy. And so you can look at it either from a human lives or from a dollar standpoint, and they're both a great attraction. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rob Zako.
Good afternoon, Chair Groves, members of MPC. I'm Rob Zako, obviously Executive Director of Better Eugene Springfield Transportation. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here in person. We used to do this all the time every month. So thank you for this opportunity to testify on federal funding projects. I've got some process comments and some substantive comments. First on process, I don't mean this as a criticism, but just to provide feedback. I'm probably more engaged or knowledgeable than the average person. It was hard for me to figure out what this was about. There's a one-page summary that has a list of all the projects by title. That didn't really sort of tell me of a sort of street intersection of what that was. Late Tuesday night, I spent about an hour clicking on all 19 of those links, pulling out those descriptions, creating a best blog post, and sharing that out with some of the people testify, just to have a bird's eye view of what the projects are. Again, not a criticism, but it was a little bit hard to access kind of what we're testifying on. Beyond that, this is obviously a fairly technical subject. There are different phases of projects. There's a lot of technical criteria. Each one has sort of description that sort of talks about where the funding might come from or go to, and then application with a bunch of different criteria. It's really overwhelming. It's confusing. I'm not sure how to make sense out of that. That said, thank you for the opportunity to testify. It's useful. You've heard some useful comments. What I suggest to other people is that we're not supposed to be experts, and we're not supposed to tell you what to do, but we're supposed to tell you, or it's helpful for us to tell you what we know. So I'm going to tell you about 3 projects that I know in my personal experience, and maybe that'll be helpful. And caveat, that's not to say that other projects are not worthwhile. I think all these should be funded. I understand that there's not enough money to fund all of them. But the 3 projects I want to highlight are River Road Highway 9, 30th Avenue, and the Transit Shared Mobility Integration and Modernization, just because I have personal experience with those. River Road and Highway 99, as you've heard, 2 of the highest crash quarters in Eugene. A lot of people are dying. Best has gotten an ODOT Innovative Mobility Grant. Thank you, Vidal, if you're on the screen there. And as I think all of you know, we had Smart Growth America in town last month and had walk audits on River Road and Highway 99. We had town halls. We're not you. We're not doing your work. We're sort of like trying to pave the way of engaging the community to help the community see if there are problems there that require solutions. It's pretty clear, as you've heard, that there are problems there, but we're trying to see if the public supports that, if the public sees the problems to pave the way. If there's funding to have the city of Eugene do follow-up work on that, that'd be really great. There are problems there, and that would leverage the little bit of work we're doing, and that'd be a good partnership. 30th Avenue out to LCC. It's been a long time since I taught math out there, but what I did, I used to ride my bicycle over the hill. It's scary. I understand that that's the most dangerous county-owned facility in the county, the size of Connecticut. Wayne County has almost no resources. They're doing amazing work. They've got a this is the bicycle master plan, sort of identifying sort of all over county what to do if money were available. And they've got some plans for 30th Avenue. Money for that would allow them to make some of the improvements that are needed and save lives. Lastly, again, just my personal knowledge, my primary mode of transportation as a peaceful rides bicycle. I'm really excited that there's now a hub, 1 house down from where we live. I've gone on trips where the starting and ending I can go to door. It's incredibly efficient. It's incredibly cost effective. Integrating that with LTD's transit, having e-bicycles, doing more for that. It's really good bang for the buck. So I definitely support that. Again, there are other good projects, but those are the ones I know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, that concludes public testimony from our in-person attendees. We have some online attendees that wish to speak. Paul, is that correct?
Yes, Chair, I believe Sarah Maze wishes to testify, and she should be coming online here to do so in just a moment.
Okay, so you're going to handle then the online people?
Please.
Great, thank you.
Am I the person up next to testify online?
You are.
It is
Okay,
you.
great. Hello, my name is Sarah Mazey. I work as the Safe Routes to School Coordinator for Eugene School District 4J, and I'm here today to share my perspective from experience gained in that role. Are you able to hear me okay?
We can hear you fine. Thank
Oh,
you.
great. Thank you. Okay. So first of all, I would really love to share my appreciation for the ongoing support for the metropolitan area's Safe Routes to School programs. We daily hear appreciation for the work of the program from different school staff, students, community members. It's a really valuable program in our community. So thank you so much for that. And I also want to echo what Rob was saying, that all of these programs are really important and needed. I wish that they could all receive funding. But I do want to specifically share the needs for some programs that particularly impact students. Some of them just 4J, Eugene School District 4J students, but some of them students in our broader area. And that would be Grove Street improvements, the River Road improvements, Oakway protected bike lanes, and the LTD signal timing. The LTD signal timing, I think the previous speaker captured really well the impact of that project. In Eugene School District 4J, our students do not have access to, our high school students do not have school bus access unless they live more than 1.5 miles from an LTD stop. So the assumption is generally that they will be riding the LTD bus if they're going to ride the bus. And for some, that's a really efficient, effective way to get to school. And for some, it's their only option, but it's not very efficient. And so anything we can do to improve that system is really helpful for a lot of students in making it to school. So in the Oakway, River Road, and Grove Street projects, we have an infrastructure prioritization tool that lets us rank infrastructure needs related to safe routes to school in an objective manner. And those are, for 4J alone, we have about 200 projects on that list, 200 needs. Those three are in the top 10. I'll start with Oakway. This is a high-speed, high-volume arterial with plenty of space to include facilities for safe and comfortable bike infrastructure. It's a key piece of a network of bikeways that could transform the area to make it much less car-dependent and to allow for independent travel for those who are unable to drive, which includes everyone under 16 and many others. Because of poor connectivity in that area, Oakway provides an alternative to Coburg Road, which is totally inhospitable to people biking. And this project would make it possible for students not only in the Sheldon region, but also those using the 4J choice system to opt into schools in that region to access those schools by means other than driving. So that's a really key part of that network. Moving on to Grove Street, as you can see from the funding application, the Grove Street project serves about 2,000 students, ranging from elementary to high school age. And actually, there's a Head Start program that's in that area as well. So really preschool all the way through high school, and not to mention all of the community members that would benefit from the program. What the application, I believe, does not include is that this is our highest need traditional high school, and the middle and elementary schools served are the second highest need middle and elementary schools in our district. And so let me paint a picture for you of what these students face in getting to school. The River Road neighborhood doesn't have a grid pattern to the streets, so the only other direct option for north-south travel is River Road, which has been already called out as one of our most lethal streets. Grove is a neighborhood street that could be comfortable for all users, but here's what it looks like right now. There's no sidewalks. There's parking allowed on one side. It's not used much, but there are occasional cars. On the other side, there is just a striped shoulder bike lane. People use that for two-way travel, walking, biking, e-scooting, skateboarding, all the things, two ways in that one bike lane. And then on the other side, people are weaving around the parked cars. Right now, because there are leaves piled a couple feet high, students and other community members are walking literally in the roadway. It's a 25-mile-an-hour street, but there's many reports of speeding from neighbors and people who use it regularly. And our security monitor just brought this up to me yesterday. He said it's terrible right now with the leaves, especially. And even when there aren't leaves, students are still doing that weaving and ending up in the in the roadway. Meanwhile, for the students who choose to use the sidewalks on River Road for their active travel or who are riding the bus on which goes along River Road, and therefore they need to, for one direction they're going to have to cross River Road. They're walking through one of the most deadly intersections in the city for either their trip to school or their trip home. High school students, oh, okay, sorry. So for the half of 4J of North Eugene High School students who live north of the Beltline, LTD is really the primary option if they don't have the ability to get a ride or to drive themselves, because biking and walking are really not much of an option if you have to get through that gauntlet of dangerous intersections around the Beltline. That's the only way that they can get south to school if they're trying to use active transportation. So there are a lot of bus riders who live north of the Beltline. And many of the students who live south of the Beltline use transit as well. So those students have no choice but to be on River Road. And that's a pretty horrible thing that we're forcing our students to use one of the most dangerous streets and cross through the most dangerous intersections in the city. Collectively, these students are facing the worst infrastructure that's serving any of our middle or high schools, not to mention simply some of the worst in the district. I just want to let you all know that this high school only has 50% regular attenders, and only 80% of the students are on track to graduate. This is the lowest of any of our high schools. Please, I ask you, provide the funds to give our students a safe route to school in one of the areas where it's needed most. Thank you so much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Sarah. Paul, I think we're ready for our next speaker.
Chair, there's nobody else who has raised their hand online, so I'm asking if any of the other people who are logged in wish to testify during the public hearing, please raise your Zoom hand. And I am not seeing any. So.
Okay, thank you. I would like to give MPC members an opportunity to make comments post public hearing. Anyone have any comments? I'm Mayor Knudsen.
Randy?
Thank you, Chair. I will be brief. I just want to offer my appreciation to the number of community members who joined us to offer public comment today, and specifically the work to connect our transportation investments with the opportunities that we're providing for our families and our kids to live opportunity-rich and affordable lives in the city of Eugene. And we know that transportation costs are a big piece of the pie, almost a quarter of a pie for our average household. And so finding ways that our investments can help everyone to have an opportunity to walk or bike to destinations when those are close and do that safely, I think is incredibly important. And I just appreciate the clarity of some of what was shared today also about how we can make this work more accessible to the community, because these are significant generational improvements that we are discussing. And I appreciate that feedback as well. So thanks to all who offered feedback and thoughts today.
Thank you, Mayor. Board Member Knox.
Thank you, Chair. I want to comment about the LTD projects in this list, and those are, especially the signaling improvement. I'm also not just on the board, but I'm a transit user myself, so I'm looking forward to the improvements that will make things more efficient, and hopefully more timely for people who are riding MX and other fixed route services. So thank you for those who commented about that, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Knox. Commissioner Lovell.
Thank you, Chair. I think the board had heard really some good comments from our public commenters, and I thank you all for coming out, especially on a Thursday afternoon. I mean, you probably are working and have things to do, so you took a lot of time out of your day to do this, so I want to appreciate you for that. The thing that I think I went away with was 4 really good checkpoints for us as a board given to us by our public commenters. And Alan, he first said that, will the projects make our users safer? And if we go into thinking about all of our projects as a safety issue and to make those projects safer, I think that's going to really narrow down our focus of the what ones bring their priorities to the top. The other one was the user improvements. So they make it easier for cars rather than who were trying not to get into cars. I think that was a really good slice of information that Charlie mentioned too, that we as board members need to think about. Are we making this better for cars? Are we making this better for alternative transportation? And then there's a total of 4. Their third point was this. Noah said that we should not build any new roads when we can't maintain the roads we have with the money we've gotten. I think in this climate, we're seeing budgets. I know the county's facing a $5 million budget deficit again this year. We're going to talk about that next week. And so I'm really appreciating the fact that the public knows that we have limited resources and that they know that we're going to have to make some hard decisions going forward, that some of the things we want to have funded or some of the things that are our pet things that want to get funded may just not because we're running out of money. And anyone in this room would also run their household the same way. So I feel a real responsibility as an elected official to run our government similar. And then Noah, you said build new roads when you can't. I'm sorry, I already said that. And then Sarah, you mentioned too that safe routes to school are an important factor. And I think a lot of the times when folks get my age and, you know, I have grandkids and all that, I kind of forget what it was like to be a young parent and worry about my kids and be concerned with how they bike and get themselves to school. So I think that is a really great pillar that we as a board need to keep in mind. So those 4 things, if we kept those in mind going forward, I think we would choose the right priorities and the right projects, and we would get down the road better, if you will, if I can use that metaphor, than where we are today. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm not seeing any more hands at this time. Oh, we have Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair Chief Groves. I raised my hand late for just one simple, a rare opportunity that I'm going to take to thank Dr. Zako. Rob Zako, you've been present every minute of the way, and I want to really make sure that everybody understands the work that you put in, the diligent work that you put in, not just for one small corner of our area, but for the entire region. Dr. Zako, thanks from my heart. You've been there forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. And with that, I think I'll make a comment now. I want to thank everyone who showed up to make comments. This is an important part of the process. Likewise, I want to commend Mr. Zako here for the work he's done ongoing for many, many years and focusing on safety. It is appreciated. Safety is near and dear to my heart. In my former life, I've responded to many a call where people were injured and killed, and it happens in our community frequently. It's a tragedy every time it happens, and to me, it's in some cases beyond the point of being an accident because we know we have dangerous intersections. And when there's conflict between pedestrians and motor vehicles or bicyclists and motor vehicles, the laws of physics dictate that the motor vehicle, the larger mass, is always going to win, and it does. So this is something that we, I think, as a MPC need to keep at the forefront, as Commissioner Lovell articulated, that we keep focused on safety first and whatever we can do to make our transportation system not just functional, but safe. I totally believe in the Vision Zero work that's being done, trying to eliminate all serious accidents. And this was just a good reminder from those who spoke today, and I appreciate that. Okay, moving on. We are now at 6C on the agenda, transportation safety education efforts across Lane County. That sounds like this is an appropriate time for that.
Good segue.
Yeah, good segue. So we have Drew and Heidi taking this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, PC, for having us present to you today. Just one moment while we get the presentation up.
If I can find the right one here. There we go.
Great. Thank you. My name is Drew Pefferly, and I'm the Safe Lane Transportation Coalition Coordinator. And today, my colleague Heidi Shayla and I will be sharing updates on new transportation safety education initiatives happening across Lane County. It's been a few years since I presented to the NPC, so let me provide you a little bit of background. The Safe Lane Transportation Coalition is a collaborative group of individuals and agencies and organizations working together to reduce preventable fatalities and serious injuries resulting from motor vehicle crashes in Lane County. The coalition was formed in 2017 through a statewide and regional safety planning effort with an initial funding provided by the Oregon Department of Transportation. ODOT has continued to support the program each year that allows us to keep pushing our projects and programs forward. Our projects and priorities are shaped by our partners' safety plans and the issues that they're seeing on the ground. That input guides our education, outreach, and program development so we can address the most pressing safety concerns throughout our region. The coalition meets on the fourth Thursday of each month, and these meetings give our partners a chance to share updates, highlight their safety work, and collaborate on ideas and resources. Now, the average community member probably knows the Safe Lane Coalition through our free yard sign program. We started offering these Slow Down Neighbors Ahead yard signs back in 2019 as a part of a safety initiative along the Beaver-Hunsaker corridor. The idea was simple: give community members a tangible way to show that their neighborhoods value driving safely. These signs are a reminder to people behind the wheel that families live here, children are playing in the front yard, pets are walking on the sidewalk, and that slowing down while in this neighborhood matters. The yard signs weren't meant to be a long-term program, but the community members really took to them. And today, community members can go to our Safe Lane Coalition website and put a request in for yard sites for their yards. And we have multiple people getting them for their HOAs or their communities. So we're happy to help wherever we can. Now, the most ambitious safety program that Safe Lane has taken on is our recently launched Make a Plan campaign. Make a Plan focuses on two of the biggest contributing factors to severe and fatal crashes in Lane County, which are driving under the influence and speeding. To build this campaign, we got grant funding and partnered with a marketing agency that surveyed over 900 community members about their driving habits and their perception of safety while on the road. Using that feedback and focus groups, we created a campaign that aims to represent all of Lane County, from the bustling urban areas to the scenic rural areas. Here are just a few examples of the different campaign materials from billboards and banners, and hopefully these short little videos. Each scene is paired with a memorable image with a short rhyming phrase to catch both the eyes and the ears. We add a clear call to action through a signpost to help the message stick. The tone aims to stay positive and encouraging and focusing on the behaviors that we want drivers to show throughout the community. Both campaigns have their own distinct webpage on the Safe Lane website where community members can download the multiple different images, videos, and PSAs to use for their organization. Right now, we are in the middle of our big holiday push. Between Halloween and Thanksgiving, we did a lot of ads focusing on our general DUI prevention, which focus on beer, cannabis, and wine. And now from Thanksgiving to New Year's, we are focusing on our holiday campaign. As you can see here on the slide, celebrate right, plan your trip tonight, or plan your ride tonight. We currently have paid social media going. We have billboards going throughout the community. We have paid advertisements through Emerald Media at the University of Oregon with half-page spreads on their game day magazines, sponsoring their sports podcast, also their weekly magazine. We have our PSAs running on Spotify and YouTube, as well as a larger Google and campaign that's being ran out. We are starting next week. We are doing an old-fashioned boots on the ground campaign where we're going to be distributing our holiday coasters. And for the MPC members that are here, the coasters are in front of you. And we are going to distribute these in safety corridors that have been identified as areas that could use more DUI prevention outreach. Now in April, we'll be doing a similar campaign for our cannabis with going to dispensaries and providing them with brown bags that have our safety messages on them. So they're well stocked for April 20th. Our newest campaign is our Child Passenger Safety Technician Program. This was created to fill a gap in Lane County, especially in the Springfield and Eugene area. For years, families and expecting families had access to free car seat check programs through local organizations, such as fire departments and police departments. But during the pandemic, many technicians let their certifications lapse, and agencies stopped sending new staff to get certified because the training can be so time intense. The certification requires 4 full days of training, and with tightening budgets and limited staffing, many organizations can't spare an employee for nearly a week. Last year, I reached out to 12 organizations in the community that typically would have provided car seat checks. 9 of them no longer do, and none in the Springfield, Eugene area. And of the 3 organizations that do provide car seat checks, and especially in 2 of them in Florence, it's the same technician that's servicing both the fire department and the police department. So there is a severe lack of certified child passenger safety technicians that provide checks to the public. So in this past April, I spent 4 days in Beaverton and got certified as a child passenger safety technician. And in October, we started rolling out a community program where community members can go to the Safe Lane website and request an appointment. And I will meet with them and go over any car seat related questions that they have. Sometimes they show up with a car seat that's already installed, and we'll go and check to make sure it's installed properly. Or they'll just show up with a unboxed car seat that they just gotten from Target, and then we'll go through and install it and show them how to properly check to make sure it's installed. In 2016 or in 2026, we do want to start offering community safety events where community members can come in and we'll be at a location for 4 hours, and then they can drive in and anyone can talk to a technician. We want to try to do one in Springfield, Eugene, and then also in the surrounding communities. So the community members from all across Lane County have an opportunity to talk to a technician this year. Starting in January, we were also providing free car seats to families in need. And so we're excited to start offering that. We've reached out to a handful of organizations that work with families to let them know that we will be providing car seats at no cost. And the last thing I want to talk about before I pass this along is I want to highlight 2 smaller projects that Safe Lane's been working on this year. They intentionally weren't designed to go together, but as they grew, it became clear that they support each other very well. The first is we have created an outreach brochure for medical providers. This it explains in simple and supportive ways their responsibilities when it comes to identifying a patient with a medical condition that could cause a sudden event while driving. This brochure outlines what signs to look for, what must be reported to the DMV, and how to file that report. And to go with that, Lane Council Governments has also developed a Get Their Car Free packet. This is a guide for people transitioning from driving to a non-driving lifestyle. It lists community resources such as Meals on Wheels, LTD routes, and senior services, and more. There are 5 versions tailored to different communities, from Oak Ridge to Florence, Junction City, Cottage Grove, to the Springfield, Eugene area. So each of these packets reflect the resources available in that specific community. So I know I went over a lot of information here and I'm happy to answer questions at the end of this presentation, but for right now, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague Heidi, and she'll talk to you about Lane County's new driver education initiative.
Are you going to be the slide guy? Excellent. All right. So barriers and opportunities, rethinking driver education access in Lane County. I was hired by LCOG. I am Heidi Shayla. I am the driver education coordinator, and I was hired through a ODOT Transportation Adaptive Strategies grant to research and address barriers to driver education for teens in our county. The issues that make driver education so inaccessible in Lane County are longstanding and complicated, and the process of trying to pick those apart was the genesis for this research and white paper that you will find in the packet. So let's start by talking about what traffic safety researchers have discovered about teen drivers in the last few years. Motor vehicle crashes are a leading cause of injury and death for teens in the United States, and obviously, therefore, not just for the teens, but also for the rest of us who share the highway system with them. Inadequately trained drivers put us all at risk. So nationally, teen drivers have been found to be 3 times more likely to be in a fatal crash than adults, and those crashes often result in other victims, both pedestrians and people in cars. Teen drivers make up just 3.7% of all drivers in the United States, but they cause over 9% of all crashes and over 6% of fatal crashes. A Washington traffic safety study last year showed that drivers 18 to 24 without professional driver's education are 70% more likely than their peers to be in a serious crash. In Oregon, we are 29th in the United States for most teen-involved fatal crashes per capita. And in 2021, more than 18% of fatal and injury crashes in our state involved a driver 15 to 20 years old. So 91% of those teenage drivers involved in crashes had no professional driver education. So across the nation, graduated driver licensing is a strategy that states are trying to use to address the causes of teenage crashes. This is designed to just give teens more adult supervised time behind the wheel before they can actually get a full license. Studies show that graduated driver licensing combined with professional driver education is the most effective way to lower teen crash rates. Oregon has actually an incredibly good graduated driver licensing and driver education program, but its effectiveness is obviously dependent on whether families can access it. And that is where we have a problem in Lane County. Lane County families are finding it increasingly difficult and often impossible to access driver education classes. So these are some of the primary barriers that we have identified in this research to driver education in Lane County. It starts with a shortage of driver education trainers. And this was actually the original ask from ODOT, which was to get more certified driver trainers in Lane County. But it turns out that there are barriers built into the certification and training process in Oregon that make that a much more complicated request than it might appear on the surface. Oregon has a training bottleneck. Western Oregon University is currently the only institution certified to offer the training course, and they right now only have 7 people for the entire state certified to teach that course. So that means it's difficult to access a course. That means that the schedule is also incredibly intensive and inflexible because they're just trying to get as many people as they can access. And so there tends to be a very high attrition rate within the course. When I did the certification course this year, and 1/3 of my classmates dropped out because they couldn't balance it with their lives. Also, upon completion, these newly certified trainers are not actually prepared to do the job. So this is essentially a 101 course, a little introductory thing. So now they need to go to a school, a driver training school, which in Lane County means a private school, to actually be trained to teach. And so every single step of this process is a challenge. And then when they finally are ready to teach, there's not a lot of potential for a living wage or benefits. And this is a product of the fact that in many places, Lane County included, driver education is managed through a privatized, urban-based system. And in Lane County, we have 5 to 6 driver education schools for teens, and they're all in Eugene Springfield. So these schools, because of the nature of the business, have a lot of overhead. Some of that is regulatory from the state or the DMV, but the very nature of a driver education company has a ton of overhead. They have to have a fleet of cars to maintain and ensure. They have to have classrooms. They have to have teachers. So they need to run this business really lean to be at all profitable. And they cannot afford to pay employees very much. They often can't afford to hire full-time workers. And they definitely cannot afford to go out to the rural school districts to bring driver education to the kids where they can get them. So this privately owned for-profit driver education model also creates this middle set of barriers. Location, obviously, these schools need to be where they can access the most potential paying students. So in our county, that is Eugene Springfield, which makes them inaccessible to a huge number of Lane County rural families. And if you live in the far east or west of our county, it's just impossible. So the program cost is also impacted by this. This is a business. So they pass all that overhead cost on to the families that they serve. In 2025, the cost for a teen driving program in Eugene Springfield runs from between $390 and $685. And that is just out of reach for most families, and particularly if you need to add the cost of driving into the city multiple times to get your kid here, to get them trained. And then there are also these scheduling conflicts that come with this. The schools are trying really hard to work around public school calendars, but what that means is all the classes are on weekends or are in the evenings, and that's conflicting with family obligations, church obligations, sports obligations. And so a lot of families in the Eugene metro area, Eugene Springfield metro area, who could afford, who can access it, don't, because it just conflicts too much with what their families have to do and the obligations they have. We also have a lack of funding for partnerships. And so in other places, county sheriff's office, city police, public schools, these private driving schools have sometimes come together and really successfully created good programs. But we have such long-standing funding issues, within our police force and also just in personnel, where there's just not enough people to do it. And finally, the other barrier that we've identified is that in Oregon, driver education is not required. So every state around us, Washington, Idaho, California, Nevada, all have, all their teens have to get driver education before they can be licensed. But in Oregon, you don't. In Oregon, a 16 or 17-year-old can forego professional driver education and instead log 100 hours behind the wheel with an adult. There is no criteria about how well that adult needs to be able to drive or how well they need to be able to teach. So we don't really know what that's going to look like. But then that kid can go into the DMV and get a provisional license if they can pass those tests. So, and then the other piece, of course, in Oregon is that Oregonians, when they reach 18, are not required to have any kind of behind the wheel anything or driver education. So as long as they can go in and pass that test, they will be handed a full license and they will join us on the highways, which is what we really want to avoid. So these barriers to driver education create consequences for all of us, and fully addressing them is probably going to require a statewide systemic rethinking of how we teach driver ed. But in the meantime, there are practical solutions that we can start to incorporate at a county level. So I went looking across the nation for working models to see how others are addressing these kinds of barriers. And these are some of the examples that I was really inspired by. So the Coquille School District. Coquille is maybe half the size of Cottage Grove or Florence, but they are an example of what communities can do by creating partnerships. And in this case, the Coos County Sheriff's Office and the Coquille School District worked together to create a local driver education program. They built it from the ground up. It's been going for 2 years, and they utilized a school resource officer to do it. And the way that that really ends up working then is that resource officer gets paid through the county. That means there is an extra cost for the schools. The school agrees to do the administrative work, and the students only have to pay $30. So this is amazing. New Jersey is considered to have the safest teen drivers in the nation. This is an example of what happens when a state leans into creating a driver education system that produces safe, responsible drivers. They ultimately slow down the licensing process a lot. So they have two forms of driving permit that you have to work through. They have multiple forms of licenses that people have to go through. You cannot get fully licensed in New Jersey until you're 21. And whatever age you are, if you come in without a license, you have to have at least 3 months of supervised driving experience before you can apply. So this really works for them. Washington State, regionally, our neighbor states are recognizing that teen driver education is a public safety priority. And so this year, Washington passed a new traffic safety law intended to address shortcomings in their driver education model. Starting in July of 2027, 18-year-olds will have to have safety and behind the wheel training before they can get licensed. And the idea is to then incrementally move that up so that ultimately anyone up through 21 will have to show that they have had training. And finally, Muskingum Valley Educational Service Center. This is in Ohio. This is an extraordinary example of regional collaboration and what happens when we create a model that's counter to that privatized one that we're all using. It began as a pilot project in 2022, and they were trying to solve the same issues that we have in Lane County. They created a driver education consortium, and it's housed in an education service center, so essentially Lane ESD. And they partner with individual school districts to bring driver education to the students where they live. And so it's a partnership between schools and this consortium and the state. And so looking at all of these brought us to a place of trying to think about strategies at the county level. So these are some strategies that we believe going forward would help us all. So build a regional consortium, establish something similar to the Muskingum Valley Educational Service Center driving school. The way that one works, the school manages most of the administrative work. They do all of the hiring of behind the wheel contractors. They do the training. They serve as the employer. And because they are in an educational service center, they can serve also as a pipeline to receive grant funding and scholarship monies and help to get cars. And they are in charge of getting those cars retrofitted with all the safety equipment. So that takes a huge amount of pressure off the schools. But the actual driver education happens at the school so kids can actually get there. In the last 3 years, they have gotten more than 2,000 students certified in this way. We also think that creating a local scholarship fund could do a lot. This probably is not going to help so much the rural students because there are so many other barriers to getting them into the city as things stand now. But we have a lot of students within the metro area that would like to take driver education and simply cannot afford to. So that would be helpful. And then finally, leveraging local talent. This plays into that a notion that Coquille School District did, where if we can help people get certified in their communities, they could at least perform the behind the wheel portion of the training. And so maybe with, some sort of a Zoom model to bring the classroom portion and working within those communities, we can start to get people out into the rural areas. So where we stand right now, our next steps, we are at the very beginning of trying to figure out how to build this county-wide partnership and bringing people into it who can give us their expertise that we can start to really map out how this could look and work. We also are developing an educational website for families. We discovered that when kids want to get licensed, they tend to just Google it. How do I do this? Which sends them to an ODOT website or to the DMV website, and neither of those are very easy to get through for these kids. So we want to develop this website that's going to make it very Lane County specific and help families, help parents, and also provide some better study materials, hopefully for these kids to break down how they could, because the driver's manual's a little bit dense right now. So, and finally, we are working to increase access to instructor certification in rural areas. So we are looking at doing a pilot project with the 5 smallest school districts in Lane County to see if we can get people from their communities certified so that they can then be working in their communities with their students. So that is where we are at the moment. And thank you so much for letting us be here. And if there's any questions, we would love to help answer them.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the information. I found it very informative. Opening up to questions. Commissioner Black or Councilor Blackwell.
Excuse me, not so much a question, but a comment. Thank you so much for that presentation. It was very informational. Drew, I appreciate the work you're doing around the car seats, especially and the fact that you went out and got certified in order to kind of pick up the slack, so to speak, for, I had no idea that our fire department, our police department no longer offered that service. So that was interesting to me. And then having raised two kids that were now in their early 20s, this driver education portion really resonated with me. I was fortunate enough to put both my kids through it, but it was a challenge. It was expensive. And with their sports schedules, like you mentioned, it was very difficult to get through that. And they complained the whole time, but they're better drivers for it. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there other comments from the MPC? Questions? Just addressing the ESF fire, we used to do that, provide that service, but the firefighters were never trained in it. Other people came in, they just used the drive-through bays, primarily at Second and Chambers. And as you noted, it takes quite a bit to get certified. And the other thing is the firefighters on duty are still responding to calls, and they run just over 50,000 calls per year. So they're busy. But the facilities, I think, would still be available if there were people to come in and actually do the work like they used to do. So I don't want to speak for the fire department, but I just know from past experience that that's how it used to operate. So thank you very much. And with that, we will move on to MPO annual obligation report. And this is agenda item 6D for those following along. Dan Callister.
Yep, me again. Hi. No presentation here or slide presentation. This is the annual listing of obligated projects. We sometimes just call it the obligation report. I'm going to just describe it, give you some high-level takeaways. So metropolitan planning organizations are required to publish within 90 days of the end of a federal fiscal year a listing of all federal obligations that took place in their MPO in the prior fiscal year. So what obligation means in this context is essentially it's when federal funds that are committed to a project become officially locked in. And it's necessary before project costs become reimbursable. It can't take place until agreements are in place and fully executed. So it serves as a good benchmark for project moving forward. The report itself is also a good way for the public to see how funds are actually being spent for transportation in their area in real time, relative real time in the transportation world. So for our MPO, for our FY25 report, we had $25 million of federal funds obligate, which is actually lower than average for our MPO, but that's not something that's too concerning. A lot of our transportation work in this area gets delivered on like a 3 or 4 year cycle. And usually when we have a low year like this, it just indicates that there's a lot of planning and engineering work happening and that we can expect a higher dollar construction work in the next couple of years. What is maybe a better indication of things moving forward here is that we had obligations taking place on 37 different projects, which is about on par for us. So things are looking good, and this is just for your information. There's no action here. Wanted to let you know that that report was completed and was provided to our state and federal partners and published on our website to satisfy our federal requirements. I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
Thank you, Dan. Questions or comments from the MPC? Seeing none, I just want to add in, thank you for the information. And I know in watching time value money, it seems that revenue is not keeping pace with the increased costs in construction projects, especially in the post-COVID environment, the supply chain issues, and in some cases, labor shortages. So, really anything we can get done with today's dollars, we're going to be money ahead than rather deferring the work. So, I mean, this just, I think, adds to the responsibility to be as efficient and effective as we can with the funds that we do have access to, and really think through the projects and have that priority lens of safety first, I think is a great kind of mark to shoot for. So that ends agenda item 6C. We're on to other MPO information. Vidal, do you have an ODOT report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This has been a great meeting today. I've learned quite a bit, and hearing the community kind of talking with the MPC here and the MPC responding. It's just beautiful. I really appreciate all the conversation. My update for ODOT today really is going to be short, and I think most of you, first on the list, most of you probably already know that Director Strickler is moving on. He have already put in his notice, and his last day with the department is going to be January 2nd, 2026. He's been 6 years with the agency, and some of you probably already know right now that the governor, Governor Kotek, has already appointed Lisa Sumption, who is currently the director of Oregon Parks and Recreation, to step in and fill that interim director position for ODOT. And that's going to take effect January 2nd, 2026. I know that the governor and the OTC is working on a plan for a recruitment process to try to fill in that vacancy. And I'm understanding within the next 3, 4, 6 months, hopefully with a national recruitment going on, they'll be able to find someone. The other thing I just wanted to quickly note too as well, that you've all heard about the referendum that's been going on, and it does appear that it has a lot of steam behind it, and consequently petitioners have, to my understanding, at least right now, I know that the Secretary of Office hasn't done any certifications yet, but they appear to have enough signatures to pull back some of the items that was in SB 3991. So that's moving forward. That consequently, those conversations are being had with our agency right now, with some of our higher ups, looking at what our current state is, where things could fall, obviously looking at all the different nuances that would help us be able to navigate and stay alive, if you will, as we go through this process. One of the things that we have done is we're re-looking at what our budget is. And we do know that SB 3991 does have some funding aspects still remaining in there that's not part of the referendum. We're looking at those, and we're also looking at I think the last time I was with this group here, we had about 750 vacancies. And I think right now we're still above 700 vacancies that are out there. And we're looking at how we could better do what we need to do with what vacancies that are there to help balance our budget. I do know as well too, right now, there's still a big push to hire some of the maintenance positions that are out there, obviously to get us through the winter and so forth. So I know that the maintenance group, at a minimum, that group of vacancies, if you will, more than likely will be filled, but some of the other vacancies that tend to deal more with project delivery, some of our designers, engineers, some of our construction folks will take more than likely a big hit as we kind of move through the next year and a half, knowing that this referendum is moving forward with the steam that it does have. The Lane Act did not meet last month, so nothing to report on that, but we are meeting this month, actually next week, two very important topics that's going to be coming online. The CIP is one of them. That's the Capital Investment Program. And I did reach out to Paul, and hopefully, Paul, you're able to set something up with Kayla to get that before this group as well, because I think that's something that's very important there for this group to kind of at least participate in. And then we do have another discussion on the Lane Act that's going to be talking around transportation equity with health. The Lane County Health Department, one of their individuals going to come talk with, I believe her name is Joe Rogers, if I'm understanding correctly, going to come talk to us about transportation equities as it evolves around health. That's kind of my update here today right now, and I'm more than happy to take any questions if I can answer those with the group here, Chair.
Thank you, Vidal. Are there questions from the MPC? I'm not seeing any. I have one. Would there be any opportunities for members of the MPC to listen to the interim director if she's down in our area at some point, or even speaking to groups up in Salem? I certainly would appreciate hearing what her priorities are, and also if she is going to be a candidate for the position ongoing.
Oh, very good question, Chair Groves. I will put that request in to come have her chat with the MPC. And obviously, I'm not a decision maker on that, but
Sure.
I do recognize, and you are correct. I thought it was a rumor mill, but it's actually true. Recently, she has been kind of moving around, kind of making herself out there, getting a little notice, a little publicity, if you will, in light of the task that's in front of her. So I will put that out, get that through my uplines, and see how we can make that happen for her, for the group.
I appreciate that. I'm guessing that my colleagues on the MPC would be interested in that as well. I just think it would be interesting to learn what her priorities are and kind of how she's seeing the work. I recognize her hands are going to be full with just getting on board, onboarding, and then also with the referendum challenge to the funding. Yeah, all bets are off with that, which I think we certainly understand.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Vidal. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there in person. I really wanted to, but I'm kind of got some conflicts up here in the Portland area, so I'm here for a couple of days, and then I'll be heading back down to Eugene. So again, I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but I would love to have been.
Understood. I'll just say that I certainly enjoy the in-person meetings. I think I know I get a lot out of it. I'm hoping or my colleagues do as well. Next item is 6E, number 2, the TIP project changes. I know that this is mostly just a question and answer. Paul, do you want, just for the people listening in that maybe don't understand what that is, just a quick couple sentence overview?
Really, it's just our monthly report to you of the administrative changes we make to the funding. There are certain things, whether it's minor funding adjustments or adjustments to scope or literally the title of a project, that we can handle administratively, and this is just keeping you informed.
Thank you. I just want the public to be able to understand that, because I don't know that TIP project changes by itself means much to them. So that's the work we are doing. Are there any questions or comments from the MPC on this subject? I'm not seeing any. So with that, next steps in agenda build. Are there anything that we do want to talk about for future agendas?
A couple of things, if I could share. We are not planning to meet in January, partly because that would be on the 1st. We will be meeting February 5th. Currently, we're planning that as a virtual meeting. We do have another full agenda planned. That would include election of the 2026 MPC officers, the chair and the vice chair, as well as the 2 members who represent this body on the Oregon MPO Consortium. That in February will be a good timing, because we typically understand that your jurisdictions make your committee assignments in January. So we may have some new MPC members showing up at the February meeting. Also on the February agenda would be the recommendation and approval of funding out of the 19 projects you heard about today. I want to note for the public that the public comment period on that will be open through that meeting. So it is still time for the public to submit comments on what they think the priorities should be up until the February 5th meeting. And then I have, as Vidal noted, I have coordinated with ODOT staff, and there will be an ODOT person here to present on the ODOT CIP.
Very good. Thank you. And for the MPC, I want to thank you for allowing me to serve as chair for this past year. Unfortunately, I will not be here at the February 5th meeting, but I wish the best to whoever is the next chair and vice chair. It's I think a privilege to serve in this role, and I really think this is important work that we do, even though it seems like the work we do now, most of us won't be here when it actually gets enacted with the delay time and funding challenges, but it's still important that we keep our eye on the future and that we continue to keep making our roads as safe and functional as possible. So with that, if there's nothing else to come before the MPC, I'm not seeing anything. We are adjourned. Thank you.